Is that
well,
true?
They're wrong. There is legislation. It's not, if you like, consolidated into one particular piece of legislation, but there's the Human Rights Act, there's the Data Protection Act, there's the Equality Act. There's various bits of legislation that govern the use of this technology. Also, the police have guidance as well from the College of Policing. There is a genuine issue about whether we should try and put it into one place and have better oversight and transparency about the use of this technology. So we are going to consult on that later this year. But at the moment, there is a legal basis for using this, because we wouldn't bring it forward and want to promote it if we weren't reassured that that legal basis was there.
It's really interesting, though, because I guess there's been suddenly, as you're announcing today, a big increase in how much it's going to be used based on a quick decision as opposed to a full debate in Parliament. So maybe that's what they're getting at. More broadly, whether it's the police or private companies, is there grounds to, I guess, get to that legislation quicker, in that if the police or anyone stops and asks to see my driver's licence, I know that they're doing that. There's a big difference with this. They'll be scanning my face as I walk past. Hopefully they won't then arrest me for anything, but I won't have even known that's happened.
Frost catches the actual issue. The government is deploying a surveillance tool capable of tracking everyone's activities in the absence of clear, current legislation established by Parliament. Johnson hides behind a patchwork of existing acts, none of which were created specifically for AI-powered facial recognition. Promising to consult after the fact is not proactive governance. Rather, it acknowledges that they have already committed to the technology without obtaining democratic approval. Make sure you like and subscribe.
Similarly, on your beat, there's new guidance now that the police should consider disclosing ethnicity and nationality of suspects. Why are you doing that? Is it going to put the police in a really difficult position? I mean, the guidance is that they should consider disclosing ethnicity. Shouldn't you be much clearer on what should or shouldn't happen?
Well, I think we are saying very clearly we want as much transparency as possible within, as I've just explained, not prejudicing a trial.
Frost recognises the flaw immediately. Ambiguous, non-committal directions to consider disclosure ensure confusion and inconsistency. Johnson portrays it as a victory for transparency, but it is actually a ploy to avoid adopting a clear stance. If the government genuinely valued transparency, it would establish mandatory regulations with only rare, defined exceptions, rather than delegating decision-making to already overburdened police and CPS teams.
You will actually know, because when I went down to Croydon to see this actually being demonstrated, there's a van that was parked in the centre of Croydon town centre. There were signs everywhere saying there is a live facial recognition demonstration happening now, so people could see that. So some people I could see were choosing to walk away from where the van was parked, but there is full disclosure of what's actually happening. That's part of the guidance that the College of Policing set forward that police forces have to do. And the list that's compiled of people who are wanted by the police is done within a few hours. But you're absolutely right. I do think we need to have a debate with the public, really, about this. So I think there's been a lot of misinformation about it, and I think the public can be reassured at the moment. There is a legal basis, but we can do things, I think, better, make it more transparent and open than perhaps at the moment is the case.
Frost's initial challenge remains valid. A modest sign near a vehicle does not provide informed permission when technology can silently capture and process thousands of faces in minutes. Johnson's claim that individuals could just walk away ignores those who do not see the sign, do not grasp its implications, or have no choice but to travel through the area. Calling criticism misinformation is a political dodge, not a refutation. Make sure you like and subscribe.
I mean, I should clarify, you didn't scrap the bill, but obviously significantly watered it down, and it didn't go through as you'd intended. I mean, when you look at this, a million increase in a year, is it fair to say you've lost control of the benefit system at the moment? Do you really frame it as a bold agenda after it was rejected by most of your MPs?
Well, that was a particular issue around disability benefits and how we best protect and support people with disabilities and long-term illness. And I think, the government didn't deal with that as effectively as they could. They didn't engage with our backbenchers as effectively as we could have done. I think we put our hands up to that, and that's why we've got the TIMS review looking at how we can best support people with disabilities and long-term illness, and there'll be no changes until that review has been concluded.
Just finally, is inheritance tax something that could be tapped to raise more money to pay for all sorts of things?
Well, I'm not the Chancellor, and she's obviously going to announce her budget in the autumn, and we'll make her announcements then. But what I'm really clear about is that the decisions that she's already taken have allowed, for example, for me as the policing minister, to make sure that we're getting those 3,000 additional police officers this year into our communities to keep people safe.
Frost focuses on a harsh reality. The welfare system exploded under Labour in a single year, and the government's own MPs undermined its major measures. Johnson attempts to portray the situation as bold reform in progress, but this narrative fails when the policies themselves have been watered down beyond recognition. Calling it an ongoing programme is only a ruse to conceal political weakness and policy immobility.
When you took power, there were 2.67 million people on universal credit. That's risen by over 1 million to 3.7 million people. Is that sustainable? Just finally, is inheritance tax something that could be tapped to raise more money to pay for all sorts of things?
Well, I'm not the Chancellor, and she's obviously going to announce her budget in the autumn, and we'll make her announcements then. But what I'm really clear about is that the decisions that she's already taken have allowed, for example, for me as the policing minister, to make sure that we're getting those 3,000 additional police officers this year into our communities to keep people safe.
Instead of confronting the welfare situation full-on, Johnson shifts the focus to policing, believing that a positive headline about 3,000 extra cops will distract from 1 million more people on benefits. Frost's figures are scathing since they show Labour failing at both fiscal discipline and its declared goal of putting people to work. Deflection is not a policy, and the government's shift from welfare to policing in the same breath shows it has no fast solution.
I don't think that's the case at all. And as I explained, we have a programme of reform, and Liz Kendall, as the Secretary of State for the Department of Work and Pensions, has a bold agenda about making sure that people should be in work, but a system that works for those who have got disabilities or cannot work for a particular period in their life. I think this is ongoing work, so I fully recognise that is not sustainable, the figures you've just quoted at me, but it's not like we're just sitting back and saying that's fine. We are saying we need to reform.
Frost catches her in an obvious double standard. Labour accuses the government of secrecy, but Johnson uses the same "we don't want to inflame tensions" reason to avoid specifics. If safety and openness are truly the top priorities, the regulations must be applied consistently. Otherwise, it is clear that this is about political convenience rather than principles. The fact that she fails to recognise the hypocrisy exacerbates the situation. Let us know what you think down below in the comments.